me under, take me under your wing, crack of thunder, as the wild birds sing. You can hear hunger crying out, a sonic echo that leaves no room for doubt. All the shots bring it back to what it's not. Make a move, do we do? As the world cries tears in our hands, are we all part of a bigger plan? All the shots bring it back to what it's not. Deepest oceans, they can't portray enough empty spaces, time to rust and dust. There's no wonder left for us to love. No warmth or shelter, just satellites above. All the shots bring it back to what it's not. Make a move, do we do? As the world cries tears in our hands, are we all part of a bigger plan? All the shots bring it back to what it's not.
on a break for the World GT Championship, we are back with the second of our 4 endurance races here in Season 14 of the Championship. It's round number 7, and it's coming to you from Silverstone in the UK. My name is Paul Smith. Alongside me is Peter Mackay in the commentary box. And Peter, I mean, it's Silverstone, it's an endurance round. This should have plenty of thrills and spills.
That it will, Paul. Yeah, Silverstone, of course, the home of British motorsport, really the heart of British motorsport, and part of an incredible schedule here in the World GT Championship that really is putting these drivers to the test. After the North America jaunt of Sebring, VIR and Road America last time out, we then have a European-themed quarter of the season, with Silverstone starting off here tonight. We have the Circuit de la Sarthe in a week's time for a feature round of 2 40-minute races, and then Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya rounds out this first half of the championship with 3 20-minute sprint races. Then the second half of the championship, it's Daytona for our third endurance round, Fuji and the Red Bull Ring are after that, and the final quarter of the season, it's Monza, Imola and Spa. And well, speaking of the championship, let's take a look at how things stand in your pro standings, and it's 44 points separating James Bume for Altitude Esports over Ross McFarlane and Biz Pewsom's esports car. Jack Sedgwick is in third place for Inex Racing, ahead of Mark Fletcher. Leif Sebastian and Morgan Butler, the two 3M UK teammates, are 5th and 6th place, with Ethan Critchley, Alex Davidson, Marcin Rebuchek and Matthew Victorino rounding out the top 10. In your Pro-Am Championship, it is Denis Grabowski, who, the privateer, is doing a sterling job on his own. 96 points clear of Adam Watson in his Altitude Esports white car. 2 points back from him is the Olympus Esports Titan driver of Daniel Sedgley, with Michael Gray 4th place, not that far behind either. Phil Samways and Andy Archer are the next two, with Nicholas Bocage, Chris Gooch, Ben Gregory and Lewis Bibby rounding out your top 10. In your AM Championship, 56 points separate the front two. It's the Olympus Esports Titan driver Sophia Ridpath starting off in first place, with William Guthrie for Full Tilt V Autosport 2nd place, Adam Hedgecock 3rd for Altitude Esports Blue, and then it's Paddy Faulkner, Paul Clist, Jesse Pay Wilkins, Josh Boot, Nathan Healy, Carol Pukalka, oh my goodness, I had this last time. Pukalka in his debut round. What a debut it was for him last time at Road America. And Chris Stevenson rounds out the top 10 of your AMs. In your team standings, starting with the pros, it's Altitude Esports who lead that by 196 points over 3M UK. 2 points behind them is the Pure Sims Esports team, so really close between the two Pure Sims run outfits. Apex One with Simutech are in 4th, ahead of Altitude Esports White in 5th place. And then in the AM Teams Championship, it's Olympus Esports Titan leading that one by 268 points over Fat Atom Racing. 20 points behind them is Full Tilt V Simsports, with Full Tilt V Motorsports in 4th. AI Race Summaries DCW Racing in 5th, ahead of Full Tilt V Autosport. Olympus Esports Atlas, and then Altitude Esports Blue rounding out the 8 teams in AM. So that is how things stand right now in the championships. Right now in qualifying, it's James Bume who's currently leading that, but we've got the final couple of cars coming across the line to set their final lap times, and Alex Davidson has put in a sterling lap to put it in 2nd place, but Bume still in the lead. Now this is somebody that we're going to keep an eye on, though. It's Victorino, not putting a representative time here, Peter. What can Matthew do across the line here? Well, it's really important to keep it within track limits here to try and get a lap time on the board. Otherwise, it would be 37th on the grid, and Victorino does get it in. Half a second off the ultimate pace. He'll start in the 4th row.
So I believe that is the last of our drivers to come across the line there to finish off their flying laps. There's about a minute before we head on over to the starting grid. Interesting for me is that the top 10 are all pros. There's not been a Pro-Am sneak into that top 10. and the AMS, well, Sophia Ridpath is the first one in 20th place. So we've got very much a big separation here with Silverstone. But then again, it's quite a driver's track, isn't it?
It is, yeah, proper driver's circuit. You know, Lewis Hamilton, he says, you know, the combination going through Maggots, Beckett's, Chapel, it's just, there's just nothing like it in the world, and it's absolutely true. These GT3 cars, they're not as much of an aero car as a single seater is, but they do have a good amount of aero for their dimensions and their size. So there is some real big commitment corners. There's also some real technical bits. The new arena section, or new, it's 13 years old now, it still feels new. That is a bit where you can make up time and make overtakes as well.
I still have to look up a track map of the circuit for the corner names. It's the new section. As you're absolutely right, it is 13 years old now, but certainly does take a bit of remembering. But with all that being said, let us have a look at your starting grid then for this round number 7 of the World GT Championship, and it is James Bume for Altitude Esports. Once again, a pole position for him. Alongside him is Alex Davidson of Pure Sims Esports. The Pure Sims Esports driver Ross McFarlane shares that second row with Jack Sedgwick of Inex Racing. Ethan Critchley and Axel Sliptrovich round out row number 3. Row 4 for Matthew Victorino and Mark Fletcher, with Leif Sebastian and Jesse Stevens on row number 5. Row 6 is the top of your Pro-Ams. Tim Perry getting pole position in Pro-Am over then the driver of Adam Watson. Jonathan Walker and Andy Archer are the next two on the grid, with Richard Simner and Marcin Rabicek rounding off that next row. Row number 9 is Jack Osborne and Arthur Turtle. With Morgan Butler and Sophia Ridpath rounding out row number 10, it's William Guthrie, then the second of the AMs behind Ridpath in AMs. Alongside him is Daniel Sedgley, Paul Webster and Adam Hedgecock on row number 12. 13th row for Carol Pukalka, with Josh Boot alongside them. Matthias Lutchak and Jess Payne Wilkins in the 14th row of the grid. Row 15 for Ben Gregory and Chris Gooch. 16th row of the grid, Lars Van Rijn and Andy Jones, with Matthew Loveridge and Chris Stevenson sharing row number... oh my goodness, counting Paul. Matt Sheff and Paul Crawford on the next row of the grid, with Paul Clist, Dennis Grabowski with a penalty starting at the back, Michael Gray and Patrick Faulkner rounding out your 40-car grid. 20 rows in total here. I could do that bit of maths, Peter.
That was very well done, Paul. That was a lot of cars to get through. That's well, it just shows you how fantastic an entry we have here in the World GT Championship. So well supported, and a good mixture of cars at the front of the field here at Silverstone as well, with the BMW, the Porsche, the Ferrari and the McLaren all in those first few rows. Yeah, absolutely. So 4 makes of car covering the front 5 positions on the grid, but it's the important one on pole position. James Bume, when's he going to go? Well, he's going to go now, and he gets the jump on Alex Davidson. So it's Ross McFarlane who's going to jump across in front of Davidson. The green flag is in the air. We're underway for round number 7 of the World GT Championship, through the opening corner at Abbey and Farm, and then heading towards Village for the first time. This is the first really big braking zone here on cold tyres and brakes as well. And, Chris Stevenson has gone off track. That's at Abbey. But we stay green flag racing for the time being. Through the loop and Aintree, and then down the Wellington Straight, heading towards Brooklands for the first time. But so far, Peter, drivers all behaving themselves out there. Yeah, fantastic discipline from the drivers, because it's so tight in that opening sector when you're switching back and forth. Everyone's trying to make up positions, so yeah, you got to be so careful. Jack Sedgwick in the black NX Ferrari making moves now on Matteo Victorino, and they're losing a little bit of the scent of Ethan Critchley and all the drivers in front of him. As whoa, what have we got going on here? On the headlight flashers there from one of the 3M Porsches.
It's Simner. Simner was slow off of Woodcut, so...
Now you can't overtake in this corner. It's actually against the rules of motor racing. How dare you?
It's impossible to overtake through Copse Corner, as one car in the background is showing it, I think that was Gooch. I think it was Chris Gooch who was spinning around there. He's dropped down the order on my timing screen, and he gets back up underway. So we do stay green flag racing here on the opening lap of this race. This is what we want to see in a race like this. It is still James Bume at the front, ahead of Ross McFarlane, Alex Davidson, Ethan Critchley up a place from the start of this race in his McLaren. Jack Sedgwick down a place, Victorino up a place as well. There's been a lot of drivers gaining one place and others losing one place, so it just shows the start of this race around here on the exit of Cops. It's not a exit of Cops, the exit of Club. It's not a long run to getting the green flag.
Yeah, we've seen so many races going right down to the wire on that final corner on both 2 and 4 wheels. I remember the MotoGP going down to the wire there a couple of years ago also. And coming through the opening corner, coming through Abbey, very, very quick through there, and then you're hard on the brakes with a very tight village and loop section. This is where you can try and make some moves, because there's just so many different lines. You can see there Matches Luchak trying to hold off one of the BMWs, and then it's the flat out corner of Aintree where you just about can go too wide through there for the run down towards the British Racing Drivers Club in Brooklands.
That's Daniel Sedgley that he's fighting with there in that Olympus eSports car, and just going to sneak ahead, is he? Yes, just gets the nose in front, but runs deep into Luffield corner, and that's allowed Luchak to go through. Paul Webster we're on board with here. Change of car for him. He just wasn't getting on with his choice of car at the start of the season. Switched over to the Ferrari, which from seeing the virtual paddock, Jack Sedgwick has said, oh, that's a car going off quick, let's just boot into the barrier.
And he did, made contact with the rear of the car there. The drivers do have a fast repair, so if they can get back to pit lane on their own power, they can get a brand new car effectively. It's all very nice here. As Adam Hedgecock runs a little bit wide there, coming out at the right-hander. That manages to hold on for now, but can he hold off the Mercedes power, which is always so tricky? That's Carol Pacalka in the Mercedes trying to get past there, and he's going to get it done. Is he into... Oh, almost.
He's still there.
It's great racing.
This is great, and they're giving each other space as well as looking down the inside. There's another Mercedes getting involved here. It's Porsche, Mercedes. Got another Porsche, another Mercedes there, so a real battle of the German brands right here a little bit further down your field. This is down in 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th. Grabowski has gained 10 places from the start. Dennis is a real threat, that privateer leading the Pro-Am, and having to start from the very back of the grid. It's a real test of his credentials here, but at least in a race like this, Peter, an hour and 45 minutes, he knows he's got time on his side.
He does, yeah. You wouldn't want to start from the back of the grid from one of our 20-minute sprint races like we had at Road America, 3 of those last time out 2 weeks ago. But you're absolutely right, Paul. In these endurance races, you can work your way forward, both through overtaking, but also strategy. We've got 2 effectively enforced pit stops. They're not necessarily mandatory, but it's impossible to avoid 2 pit stops, so we should see them around the 40 minute mark. We'll see the drivers come in to fill up with fuel, and the tyre strategy is going to be interesting. James Bume at Sebring in the last endurance race we had, he took tyres at the first stop, whereas Ross McFarlane tried to make the tyres last the whole race in the hope that the tyre temperature would stay in and make up time at coming on the outlap. But the way it worked out was that basically Ross McFarlane, even the tyre whisperer himself, had no tyres left by the end of the race, and Bume won.
Yeah, that did work out in Bume's favour, and a little mistake from McFarlane it was as well, wasn't it? That just caused that, and around McFarlane. That's Ross McFarlane, my goodness, just the slightest of contact with the rear of James Bume's car, and around he goes. That's because the front of the car has got all the weight on it there, and just the slices of contact. All of a sudden, the back end goes around, and he's dropped down the order all the way down to 16th.
Well, clip that one, because you very, very rarely see Ross, now what? Is there something going on there with Ross McFarlane? Because then he's got back up to speed and then let a couple of cars through.
It's slow down penalty.
Oh. Why would he get a slow down penalty there?
If you go too wide at club, the sim thinks that you're trying to take a wider line to carry the speed.
Or, yeah, carry the speed out, yes. Oh, well, it adds insult to injury. Very, very seldom do you see Ross McFarlane making a mistake like that, especially this early on in the race too. If there was contact, Paul, it looked really marginal.
That does drop Ross down to 18th now with that slow down penalty as well. So behind Sophia Ridpath and William Guthrie, that's your top two pro drivers. Who, by the way, start the race, William Guthrie up 5 places, Sophia Ridpath up 3 places. It's a really good start to your AM drivers here.
Brilliant, yeah. This is going to be a battle that goes on all season, I think, between William Guthrie and Sophia Ridpath, both in BMWs as well. Interestingly, it's got a reputation for being a pretty steady package, for being a pretty stable machine. Although I was speaking to our RaceSpotTV colleagues, Paul, Lewis McGlade and Cam Roger, and they're saying they used the BMW at Spa, and they said it was a nightmare. Said it was really twitchy. They obviously don't know how to set it up. Sorry, Cam.
Hey, do you know what? I wasn't even invited to that team, so
you're not angry at all.
No, not at all. Here we go. This is the replay of what happened to McFarlane. And you can, like I say, you're on that corner apex. All the front right is loaded up, and it just takes the slightest of contact to unsettle the car. That loads up the front even more with that contact, and around she goes.
And do you think that there was quite a lot of... I mean, both left side tyres were on the curb as well, Paul. And clearly braking at the very last moment and trying not to run into the back of Boumé is the natural instinct. And it's like very heavy brake pressure while on the curb on one side of the car. That's got to induce a spin as well.
It doesn't help.
No.
It doesn't help at all for that. So we are almost 10 minutes into this race already, which is... absolutely crazy. McFarlane's gained a place back now. He's got ahead of Sophia Ridpath. Has now got his sights set on the cloak. The cloaking device has been activated at times for Guthrie. A little bit of connection issues for him. Just disappears ever so slightly now and then. He's still involved in this race, and McFarlane's got to be careful here. Look, there you go. You see, that's just that internet connection there. Got to remember, all these drivers are racing across the world here on the internet.
Yeah, that's what happens. If there's just a little blip in the connection on William Guthrie's side, that will make the car blink. The thing is, he will be completely oblivious to that. So it's a little bit like snoring. You've no idea you're doing it when you're fast asleep, but to those around you, it's incredibly irritating.
Oh, I know exactly that I'm doing it, so... But I sleep through it. I'm fine. I don't know about everybody else, but there you go. Piece of advice for anyone: if you're ever in the same hotel as me, don't be in the next room because you will hear it.
Change for the AM lead, I think. Sophia Ridpath having a look here into the club chicane, but Guthrie just about holds it off. But here comes Ridpath now on the inside. It's Guthrie blinking all over the place, and if it keeps doing that, you know, Paul, it looks like it's a pretty shaky connection for William Guthrie. It could throw him out completely here. It looks really, really risky.
Yeah, if the quality of the connection does drop below a certain threshold, then the simulator will kick them out of the session, and they would then have to try and get stable connection, get back on to the server. So, but yeah, Ridpath trying her best to get ahead of Guthrie, but Guthrie able to hold on for the time being. So where does this leave us in the field here as we're looking at the battling with Alpha Turtle? Fertile? Fertile? I don't know how you pronounce it. But it's a new name for us here in the championship.
Turtle, I would think. Or you really want to say turtle, don't you, or turtle?
We have a car stopped out on track, and that's Dennis Grabowski.
What happened there? That's our Pro-Am leader.
So after that big charge up the field, Grabowski has dropped down to 33rd again, so he's got it pretty much all to do again now, Peter. I think it's going to be the first suboptimal phrase of the day. Get your bingo card out.
Get that one off your bingo card. Dennis Grabowski's all on his own, so it's a very rare mistake. That's going through Maggots, Beckett's, Chapel. That is, you really are on the limit of grip and adhesion there, so very easy to get it wrong. And the Porsche, that it's a car it celebrates its 60th anniversary, the 911 this year, and this latest 992 generation has the engine really is just that tiny little bit further forward than it used to be. It's still a rear engine car though, and you just cannot get away from that. And if the weight transfers in the wrong way, it is round you go. So some drivers love the feeling and the traction it gives off the corner with the weight of the engine pushing down on the rear wheels, but others prefer either a front engine machine or mid.
As the great Montgomery Scott used to say, you can't change the laws of physics. As that Porsche, when it goes, it goes.
Yeah.
Acts like a pendulum. Do you know what I saw today whilst I was browsing the net after I'd finished work today? Is I saw a clip of some clips of them developing the 993 as there's a move to the inside from Fletcher on Sebastian. Oh, change of place there. Yeah, the 993 GT1. I saw the clip of them showing them designing it and doing the clear the clear, getting the shape exactly right. It was fascinating to watch.
The first mid-engine 911. The RSR being another one, but mid-engine 911s, they do exist, but in very, very special circumstances, the 911 GT1 being one of them. For me, Paul, that's my favourite 911 GT1 is the 993, the first one. I just prefer the design of it. Definitely not the quickest one, but it was the best.
Here's a question for you as a Porsche aficionado. What will happen when we go to the next new model of the 911? Because we're on the 992 right now, but we've already had a 993.
Very good question. I'm sure they've got it all planned out already. It's an incredibly good question. I have no idea, Paul. But we went 997 and then down to 991, so...
Oh, well, I've just seen in the YouTube chat as there goes. Look, chat, trying to look down the inside of the 3M car. Up over the curbing, and that's going to lose. Look, check a place. And through goes Arthur's turtle. So it was Morgan Butler who was fighting with, and he's ended up losing a place rather than getting a place. Ryan Walker in our chat, by the way. I think it's a car that's close to your heart is the Porsche Spyder LMP2 with the DHL livery.
That's why they call us double Scots, Ryan and I. We share a brain cell, I think. Ryan and I. Yeah, big fan of the RS Spyder, of course. Actually, one of the Dyson Racing Porsche RS Spyders came up for auction at Monterey Car Week last weekend, and it got to $4.7 million and didn't reach reserve.
Wow. Okay.
Big boy toys.
Yeah.
Or big girl toys.
Yeah, that's quite the price. Josh Boot has decided to park the car, so obviously even after going onto pit road, deciding that that's the end of Josh's day. So that's the first retirement here today. Hopefully not too many retirements, because the good thing about Silverstone is, unlike, say, Watkins Glen, you've got quite a lot of runoff all the way around this track. So if you do have a mistake, you're not going to be punished quite as hard as, say, a Road America or Watkins Glen.
Those are, and that's almost part of the charm of those circuits in the virtual world. I don't, not a fan of glorifying circuits that are potentially more dangerous. But in the virtual form, we just don't need to worry about that. And the driving pleasure of going around a Road America or a Watkins Glen, when you're really threading it through quite narrow spaces. It's just fantastic. Here at Silverstone, it's a different challenge. Yes, it's got enormous amounts of runoff. It's a FIA Grade 1 circuit. So hosts a hugely well attended round of the Formula 1 World Championship every year. But the actual design, the layout of the tarmac is still an incredible driving challenge, and is still a favourite amongst drivers and fans alike.
Wasn't it just over 400,000 people over the weekend this year?
It's
that
incredible.
They got attending. It's unbelievable.
And the ticket prices have never been higher either.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to be putting people off, which boggles my mind. It really does. But great to see that if the more people watching motorsport of any type, that's good in my book.
Michael Gray, Full Tilt V8 Motorsport, looking to the inside in his Audi, one of the remaining Audis on the grid. There isn't actually that many out there. Around the outside, not quite able to do that there on Ben Gregory. Gregory holding on in his Porsche. In fact, just looking through my timing sheet, I think he is the only Audi out there today, is Michael. So, doing it on his own. But it is a car that they know around the outside of cops. You can't overtake there, Michael. Well, he just did. That's sensational move around the outside there.
You won't see that very often. That's move of the day from Michael Gray, taming that fairly wild Audi. It's got a bit of a reputation, that machine, but he is just mastering it, is Michael Gray's. And move Grabowski on the recovery drive just went past Paul Crawford there in the 25 Porsche, but Paul Crawford's not going to have it, not going to lay down easy. He's going to try and go to the outside line, heading towards Stowe, but Grabowski holding the inside line there confidently. And Grabowski, he's also started at the back, had a spin, and he's back up to 29th place now, and just expect that number 47 Porsche to keep moving forward. Ross McFarlane has got back up to 14th, having dropped down to 18th after a spin. So, and he's only 10 seconds off the lead, Paul. So I think we'll see McFarlane forge towards the front. It's going to be a big ask to win, but stranger things have happened.
Yeah, well, I mean, these endurance races always seem to throw up a surprise, don't they? So, yeah, definitely do not write off McFarlane from a potential win. Paul Crawford on screen right now. You want to not avoid making contact with him because he's actually involved at Motorsport UK, in charge of the esports side of things at Motorsport UK, or if not in charge, certainly involved in the esports side of things at Motorsport UK. So yeah, don't get into trouble with him, and you'll be happy and fine with the governing body. It's like not hitting the sponsor as well. That's another one.
Yeah, don't hit the sponsor. That's one of the golden rules. Yeah, you don't want the blue book thrown at you. That's for sure. 20 minutes into the race, Paul, and at the front, very much a holding pattern at the front, with Boumet leading, much like he did at Sebring in the early stage. But Alex Davidson, I think he's in the pound seat right now. He's following Boumet's every move. Here comes Cedric, though, up the inside of Ethan Critchley. Critchley gives him just enough room, but no more, as they head back down towards the club chicane, and Critchley might just have enough. But here comes Sedgwick on the switchback, and Critchley has to give him the room, but then they come back round again. Critchley runs. Cedric out to the paint. Brilliant motor racing.
This is fantastic stuff between the two of them. Sedgwick, World Championship driver. Ethan Critchley, I mean, you know, he races in multiple karting championships, including the Danny Ricciardo run championship as well. Down to 4th place for Ethan, though, in that McLaren, and I think that just goes to show the difference in the cars, as their Luchak not having a good round, didn't have a good qualifying here today, and that's the problem. When you have a bad qualifying, you're then down there in the mid-pack with all the drivers that are ever being done for drunk and disorderly, I suppose.
Well, that was a superb battle between Sedgwick and Critchley, and Sedgwick had finally got the job done. And I wonder, is that McLaren's been known for being a little bit spiky and a little bit tough on its tyres. We are only 20 minutes in to this race, but long way to go yet. I think the concept was proven by James Boomey in Sebring that you can't really you really do need to get some new tyres on the car either at the first stop or the second.
I think you do it at the first stop, get the most advantage that you can out of them. If you do it the second stop, normally, if you're going for your long stop first, you've got the time to do that tyre change. Whereas if you're having a splash at the end, you've not really got time to do all 4 tyres there. So, whereas if you
want to do it in the
out,
first stop, then don't you really?
You can even it out, by the way. With the pit stops, you can work it out that way. Tim Perry, now he was the man on pole position for Pro-Am in 11th place. He stayed in 11th. The problem is Adam Watson, who's another Pro-Am fighting for a championship, is up 2 places, up into 10th place for him. And you did point out, Peter, last time, it's now got a Porsche flag next to the Ferrari flag there as well.
That's wonderful, because last season Tim Perry ran in the Ferrari and he had the Ferrari flag, and I just sort of flippantly mentioned, he'll need to get a Porsche flag, and Tim, that's fantastic stuff, love it. And then don't forget though, the Altitude Esports flag for his sim racing team just below, so he's gonna need a bigger wall if he keeps changing his car every season.
That could get very expensive very quickly, and he must be watching the broadcast as well.
Fantastic.
How can you watch a broadcast and be driving? I couldn't do that myself.
I think it's his spotter telling him.
Yeah, it must be.
Love it. Brilliant stuff, Tim. Can we say go on, Tim? Wimbledon was a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I haven't got a Mercedes flag at hand for tomorrow. By the way, if you're enjoying this series here today, tomorrow on RaceSpotTV, brand new championship from World Sim Racing. It's the World Sports Car Championship. LMP3 cars and GT4 cars all sharing the track. The opening round tomorrow at Sebring. It won't be myself on commentary because I'm actually getting behind the wheel and I'm going to be driving a Mercedes AMG GT4.
How have preparations gone, Paul?
Yes, they have gone.
Okay. I will be in the commentary booth alongside you and Leary for nearly all the season, but I missed tomorrow. It's Mrs. McKay's birthday tomorrow, so unfortunately I won't be there for the first round of the season tomorrow. But I wish you good luck.
Well, do give all my best to your missus for her birthday tomorrow. We won't say how old, but all we will say is probably younger than me. So, and you, there you go. So that's tomorrow is the World Sports Car Championship on RaceSpotTV. Make sure you do check that out. Big wiggle there for Adam Watson. Just goes to show this Porsche can be a bit of a handful, can't it?
It seems so. I mean, that when this Porsche 992 GT3 came onto iRacing a couple of months ago, it almost felt like a baby RSR in that case. It felt quite stable, and it does seem like the drivers have got it. Certainly got them set up to be pretty knife-edged, and maybe that's just what you need around Silverstone. Maybe running in a slightly lower downforce configuration as well, possibly, Paul. I'm not sure. Because you've got lots of big corners big high-speed corners where you need as much aero as you can, as much downforce as you can get. But the problem is there's a lot of 5th, 6th gear parts of the circuit where you need very low drag. So it's real setup compromise here at Silverstone.
And he's in the queue of traffic as well at the moment, which is going to be causing a lot of dirty air. I mean, we were on board with Tim Perry there. Perry's got 3 cars in front of him. Adam Watson's got 2 cars in front of him, and cars behind as well, which does have a little bit of effect.
But it's always better to have allies than enemies. Well, yes. Tim Perry, Adam Watson, and Mark Fletcher, they are all part of the Altitude Esports outfit, and I'm sure they're all in communication with one another and trying to manage this as best as they possibly can, because it's not just about pace in these endurance races, it's about fuel mileage. The less fuel you can use per lap gives you a time bonus when you get to the fuel pump. or even might even be able to run an extra lap on a stint. So it just gives you more flexibility as well. So if you've got teammates that you can, manage pace with and work together with, it really makes a difference. But Altitude Esports, I mean, they continue to rise up the order, but also the real number of them out there. And James Boumé, of course, Altitude Esports out front in this race right now.
Michael Gray is our first visitor to pit road right now in the pit box. So that's quite early for a pit stop, I would say. Potentially either getting a short stop in now and going for the long stop later on.
I would say so, yes, because he's pretty much going to split. He's going to do 2 full stints now so he's got basically 2 40-minute stints now to the end of the race. So he's doing a short pit stop now. Perhaps wanted to get out of maybe into some clean air, Paul, preferably, rather than being stuck in traffic, maybe.
I mean, 20.6 seconds in the box there. 45 seconds cone to cone there. It is quite an interesting pit lane here. We should mention it here at Silverstone because it's actually quite the shortcut through here compared to going out on the tracks. You do miss out the last couple of corners at the Vale and Club, and then you cut on the inside of Abbey at turn number 1. So it does actually shorten off the track for you. And there have been issues in the past with drivers deciding that, last lap, I'm going to throw it into pit road and try and get positions that way. Well, you can't do that, unfortunately.
I know it's not at Silverstone, but it springs to mind the Formula E in London a few years ago when Alan McNish was on the pit wall for the Audi factory team, and forgive me, I think, was it Lucas Di Grassi who was the driver in question? And anyway, it was one of the Audi drivers. I'm pretty sure it was Lucas Di Grassi. And they all of a sudden on towards the end of the race, there was a safety car, and they figured out very quickly on the Audi pit wall that if you came into the pits, went through the pits, and came out again, you would actually jump beyond the safety car and basically then come back to the back of the train, but a lap up on everybody. So it was later. They were later penalised for it. But.
Well, wasn't that because they didn't actually stop in the pit box? They brought it to almost a halt, but they didn't actually completely stop, and that was what they got done for.
Yes, and you knew there'd be a technicality in there somewhere that they'd go, yes, good idea, but here is, yeah. So
the FIA stewards, yes,
yeah, we'll find something. Yes, you were standing on your left foot, not your right at that time. That's against article number 36.23. Oh, I didn't see that in the rule book. Yes, it's in the supplementary regulations from 3 minutes ago.
That's in the sporting conduct part of the rule book, not the sporting regulations, which is an entirely different thing. But anyway, half an hour. We're going to
get ourselves in trouble here, Paul.
Yeah, we are. Half an hour. Can you see why I'm no longer a steward in series like this? Half an hour into the race, we are right now. And Boumé's still in front. And do you know what? I think Alex Davidson right now is doing a sterling job because he's matching the pace lap on lap. I mean, his 5-lap average was 0.06 of a second difference between the two of them before then. And that's just changed slightly. Matt Fletcher's onto pit road, getting his first pit stop done now for the Altitude Esports driver. But yeah, Alex Davidson, I think, is just sat there saving fuel. I don't think he has any interest of trying to move in front of Boumé.
No, Alex Davidson's just played this beautifully. And James Boumé, he's probably going to have to have actually done a bit of fuel saving his own and actually not go as quick as he maybe could do in order to not lose so much of an advantage to Alex Davidson. But it's a difficult place to be. It's an embarrassment of riches, isn't it? As Mark Fletcher does take tyres on his stop. I'm expecting after Sebring that to be the norm in the endurance races, Paul, is to take tyres at the first stop.
22.3 seconds in the pit box for Mark. Matt Loveridge and Matt Scherf has come onto pit road as well. Matt had quite the baptism of fire last round. I think it's safe to say he got knocked about left, right and centre in all three races, and at the end of it he said, absolutely loved it, can't wait to come back.
That's a true racer speaking, isn't it? He's got his list of who's getting it this time. He's like, oh yeah, you ran me wide there. Yep, you're getting it. Yep, and that's how racers think. They have this constant ledger in their mind of who they owe one to, and who is owed to them also. So it's very, very interesting. You'd think someone comes up behind you, you think, he had me off last week, right? Not again. It's the racer's mentality is so interesting to study.
You had there in that fight that we were seeing there, Richard Simner and Matthias Lukczak. Lukczak looks to the inside, and again more contact, and he's around again at Stur. That's the second time at Stur that he's gone for the inside. Oh, hold your brakes, please. Go back on, thank you. And he's decided to take the tour back to the pit road as Lukczak, which is surprising for me actually that he would do that. But yeah, it's a case of that's the second time in this race that we've seen Lukczak make a move into Stur and then make contact with the car to his direct left. The first time he got squeezed a little bit. That time though, there was space there for him.
There was, but paid the price handsomely there. And looks like, yeah, there's no damage, there's no reason to tow back, but maybe just had enough for the night and decided to park it. Interestingly, now James Boumé, we mentioned it, at the start of the season. We've had the first quarter of the season done, our kind of stateside swing, and James Boumé, this has really been a breakthrough season for him to be fighting at the very front of the field. And we asked him at the end of the last round, what's the secret, what's the difference been? And his answer was actually quite surprising to me, Paul, was that it's actually new equipment that's made the difference. And rather than, I think he was being modest. I think his driving's definitely improved along with it, but amazing what the right equipment can do. And our series sponsor Simutech have got an amazing choice of stuff for your simulator rig. And yeah, good enough for James Boumé leading this race, good enough for me.
That's a nice way to segue into a plug for the sponsor there, Peter. Professionally done, as always. But yeah, higher end sim equipment doesn't necessarily make you quicker, but it makes you more consistent. I found moving to load cell pedals from potentiometer pedals that I was being more consistent with my braking, and it's things like that can then give you that level of consistency that you could just replicate lap after lap after lap. Whereas the potentiometer on your pedals, you're having to think, how far am I pushing my brake rather than how hard am I pushing my brake? Because your brain deals with force better than position when it comes to your feet.
Especially if you're like me and you've got two pins in your ankle and you're not really sure what on earth it's doing a lot of the time. That's my excuse and I'm sticking to it.
We've got a feast of cars have come onto pit road. We're in Guthrie, Paul Webster, Chris Gooch, Dennis Grabowski and Patrick Faulkner all onto pit road for their first pit stop of the race. Now, where is the driver Michael Gray is coming past pit road right now, so we'll see how he pans out compared to those that have pitted. Longer pit stops for those that have just pitted now, though. 25 seconds I'm seeing here compared to Michael Gray's 20. So different strategies at play for different drivers.
Yeah, that's what will happen. If you run deeper into the stint, you will need longer at the stops. We've got a little bit of shuffling going on here. The 291 car, the Altitude Esports Porsche, that's Adam Watson shape-shifting away, battling away with Ross McFarlane. He's very much on the recovery drive. He'd spun and went back to 18th, now up to 9th.
I don't think there was much battling involved in there with Adam Watson. I think he, at least you didn't make the big prediction that Adam Watson would fight tooth and nail and then just moves over to let them by. At least you didn't make that prediction. But Adam, I think he's seen that bigger picture, seeing that Ross McFarlane isn't the fight that he's involved with. He's leading the Pro-Ams at the moment in 10th place is Adam. Yeah, it's how things pan out. Now, Jack Sedgwick was about 2 seconds back from these drivers when he overtook Ethan Critchley. He's been able to pull away from Ethan and close up to these cars in front of him. Looking at the average 5-lap pace, 59.7 for James Bume, 59.8 for Alex Davidson, 59.5 for Jack Sedgwick. So 0.3 of a second quicker than second placed Alex Davidson over a 5-lap average there, Peter. So consistently being quicker than the cars in front.
Yeah, it's all about that average time. It's not just about one banzai lap. What we've also got to look out for here at Silverstone is track limits. I know it's a subject that everyone loves to hate, but it's really important here in iRacing because it's an automatic system where if you step over track limits, you're given 1 incident point. So drivers have a limit on the amount of incident points they can reach, at which point they're given a drive-through penalty, which, to be honest, just ruins your race. So it really is important for the drivers to stay within that limit. And of course, if you have quite heavy contact with another driver, well, that gives you 4 of those incident points, so you can get up to that limit quite quickly.
It is 24 is the instant limit for this round of the championship before you get a drive-through. So yeah, those drivers are going to be pushing things. I can actually see the incidents, and there's a few drivers who are already in the high teens, let's just say that. So not good going for those. The front three, though, absolutely together out there on track, and James Bume, Alex Davidson and Jack Sedgwick. We've got 6 minutes before it's hour to go here, so we're coming up to 40 minutes done. With the fuel limit that they have, we normally say about 40 to 45 minutes, don't we, for a stint in these cars in the series.
Yeah, we're not far at all from having an invasion in the pits from our front runners. We've got from first all the way down to 23rd at the moment have not yet pitted, and also Paul Cliss and Chris Stevenson have not yet pitted in 26 and 27. So it is going to get very, very busy in the next, I would say maybe next lap or two. We should see the cars coming in. The question is, has Alex Davidson done enough fuel saving to go a lap longer and potentially leapfrog James Bume? The other dark horse, or the dark prancing horse, is Jack Sedgwick in that black Ferrari. He's had to drive pretty hard in the first part of the race to move forward, but now he's in the pound seat there in the podium positions. He can now really kind of soft throttle it a little bit, try and get some fuel saving done, and stay with this leading group in the pit stops. So Jack Sedgwick very much a contender for the race win here in the Ferrari.
And we've seen Jack Sedgwick in the series. Oh, Bume, now that's interesting. So Bume stays out, whereas Davidson and Sedgwick both come into. So Bume went and feigned a move to the pit road, whereas second and third place do head onto pit road. We've seen Sedgwick in the past in these endurance rounds pull off some masterful displays of driving and strategy play. Can he pull it off again here today? Well, we've got the pit party's on because everybody seems to be coming onto pit road right now.
Is Sedgwick not taking tyres? Is he up on the jacks or not? I don't think he is.
I can't tell from here.
I don't think I saw him go up on the jacks.
No, he's on the ground.
Okay, so not only that, we've got a bit of an intro. We did see Alex Davidson go up on the jacks.
Yeah.
So Sedgwick has gone for a very short stop there. So
24.5 seconds for Sedgwick, 28.8 for Davidson.
Okay, so they're on a slightly different fuel strategy, because all the time that Alex Davidson was having his tyres put on, there was fuel going in the car as well. So, do we have ourselves a strategy race here, Paul? They were very much in a holding pattern for that first stint, but now they'll start to diverge and then potentially converge later. And James Boumé, well, he continues to impress. The consistency, the pace, but also the efficiency, the fuel mileage he's able to get out of this Porsche. He has had no slipstream help at all, unlike Cedric and particularly Alex Davidson, and yet he can go a full lap more here at Silverstone, and it's a long lap around here.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the track length itself is, 5.9 kilometres in length, so it is a long lap around here. Boumé's onto pit road for his pit stop, so hit your mark, don't get caught speeding. That's the last thing you want to do coming onto pit road, is get yourself a speeding penalty. And he'll head on to the pit stall. He'll be right at the very end on the pit lane after qualifying on pole position. That puts you right at the far end of the pit road, which means it'll get straight out. And of course, with the way that this track is, the pit road actually dips down there, and so therefore it's difficult for our cameras to actually pick him up. So it's going to be fuel, no tyres though. He's on the ground.
Ooh. So going for a different approach than he did at Sebring, that is interesting. Sebring is well known for being hard on tyres, and we had sky-high track temperatures there in that race. Not sure quite what we've got here today. 30 degrees Celsius, so quite a bit cooler than what we saw at Sebring at the beginning of the season for our first endurance race. So Boumé returns in the race lead then. Cedric is also in the strategy of not changing tyres. Now, how long did they spend at the pit box? They're pretty much identical, 24 seconds. So, Alex Davidson is now 5.3 seconds behind our race leader, but has got more fuel on board and has new tyres. I think that will come back to Alex Davidson later in the race.
Those new tyres will help. Absolutely.
But they're going to help. They're not going to help now, because at the moment he's desperately trying to get temperature and pressure into them while Boumé and Cedric build that gap. But we're going to see it in that last 10 minutes, like we saw at Sebring, where Boumé had the tyre advantage and Davidson just could not. He was like a sitting duck, wasn't he? It really was a quite significant drop-off.
Certainly, and Ross McFarlane at that last endurance round at Sebring, he admitted that his tyres were down to about the high 20% of wear, so they were pretty much completely down to canvas in that race. Let's just take a quick stock of where we hold here right now. James Boumé leads the race, but only by about 0.7 of a second over Jack Sedgwick in second. Alex Davidson, third place for Alex. He is about 4.5 to 5 seconds back from your race leader. Then Russell McFarlane, that recovery drive, he's taken a short pit stop, 20.3 seconds in the pits, so I think he's done that to try and jump himself back into fourth place after starting this race in third place. So that just goes to show how things have gone on there for Ross after his spin at Club Corner. Axel Slipjovic up one place at the moment in fifth, ahead of Ethan Critchley, who's down to sixth place. Matt Fletcher seventh, ahead of Matthew Victorino in eighth. Leif Sebastian currently where he started in ninth place, ahead of your top Pro-Am Adam Watson. The next Pro-Am is actually Jonathan Walker. So Johnny Walker up to 12th place in this race, ahead of Andy Archer in 13th. So what's happened to Tim Perry? He's down to 21st, 41.1 seconds. I have a funny feeling that was a penalty coming onto pit road.
Certainly seems that way. Although I would think it would be
it would be 15 second stop and hold if he was speeding onto pit road.
Okay, that would make sense then. That's frustrating for Tim Perry. Yeah, very frustrating. Johnny Walker, of course, of Free-M UK, he has his own bridge here, going down the Hangar Straight. If you look very carefully.
I just got that. Yes.
We'll see it in a moment.
He
I think
certainly
he drives
does.
under it going, yes, hello, hope you enjoy walking over my bridge. Yep.
Just to
You're
finish off with where people are, Sophia Ridpath is your top AM. She currently finds herself in 15th, so after starting in 20th up to 15th place, that's 5 positions gained there. The next AM is Will Guthrie, who's actually in 21st right now. Slightly longer pit stop for Will over Sophia, so that might explain a little bit of dropping down. And Carol Pakalka in 23rd place is 3rd place in AM right now in this race. It was a heck of a debut though, wasn't it, at Road America for Carol to do so good in that debut round of the championship. Really set the stall out for the new AM driver.
And holding up the honour of Alfterbach as well, one of the very few drivers using the Mercedes AMG GT3 in this championship, the big booming 6.2 litre V8. We will really miss this car when it finally retires from competition. But according to Mercedes AMG, they're going to race it on right to the end of the homologation, 3-4 years from now. So they're planning to get the very most out of it. You can't actually buy an AMG GT anymore, certainly not a two-door one anymore, but it's more about, I think now in GT3 racing, it's more about just the brand being out there and having a good base of customers using the cars. And you look at, like, for example, the Ferrari 296 GT3. Yes, you can buy a new one of those, but it's in a different, the race car is quite different to the road car in terms of its specs. So yeah, there's I think it's Audi R8's another good example where there's still Audi R8s out there competing, but very much an older model now.
Karol Pakalka making moves in that Mercedes, up to 22nd now, ahead of Paul Webster. There is Paul behind, who, by the way, I saw on his social media photos of him enjoying a family holiday. With it being the F1 close down right now, of course, if people don't know, he does work for Mercedes Formula One team. He was on his family holiday, and my goodness, what a beard Paul has right now. So definitely been growing that one out, and certainly, it is an impressive feat of facial hair.
Maybe he's just enjoying his time off because he maybe has to shave at work.
Oh no! This is not a case of a couple of weeks.
It's a full commitment beard.
Oh, it's months. Yes.
Is it like Shane Lewis and I's sideburn growing competition?
Well, let's just say, for me to get to the same length of beard that he's got, it would take me a few years.
Oh, wow.
Well, anyway, with that complete shock, Paul, it's a shame that Paul doesn't give us his webcam. Would be able to see him in all his magnificence. But Leif Sebastian, 3M UK driver, currently in 9th place, where they started. Ahead of them is Matthew Victorino in the 292 numbered car. Started 7th for Victorino, so down 1 place. I'm looking at the lap times. The lap times are starting to increase slightly, aren't they? With the track temperatures been increasing throughout this race. It started at around 26 degrees. It's just short of 29 degrees right now, so it is slowly increasing as we go towards the lunchtime period.
I tell a lie, Paul. There is just announced yesterday a facelifted AMG GT two-door with rear seats. So there is a new AMG GT. So could we see a new Mercedes AMG GT3 car in potentially in the future? That would be cool.
So I mean, if you've got the money for it, then sure, why not? I wouldn't be able to buy one, that's for sure.
Well, but with there being a new model, that might give them a good reason to make an evolution of the existing car, or to improve it. A little bit like Porsche do with the new
generation. Isn't this one the evolution at the moment?
It's the evolution of the first car, but no. Mercedes yesterday have announced a new AMG GT road car. Yeah, so then
they could do a new homologation, then, couldn't they?
They could, yes. And it would
5 years that lasts for homologations.
Yeah, and so they would extend it on a little bit longer. Yeah, and with Le Mans going to GT3 regulations next year, it would having Mercedes back at Le Mans would be great.
You look at how GT3 racing has evolved in recent times. The number of manufacturers that come on board with GT3 spec. I mean, I just look at, like, you know, the one that I remember from seeing at British GT a few years ago was the Bentley, the M Sport Bentley. You know, that thing, God blimey, you could feel that coming along, let alone hear it. You know, you've got your Porsche, Audi, Mercedes, Ferrari, Lamborghini. I'm trying to just think of others off the top of my head.
Lexi.
Yeah, Lexi. Yeah, Nissan. Are they still doing the GT3 car? I don't think they are.
No, they will be out there, but no, it's sort of got to towards the end of its life now. Maserati did one.
Yeah.
With the Gran Turismo. What else? Reiter Engineering built one out of a Lamborghini Gallardo. It was one of the first GT3 cars. So there's various oddities out there. A Callaway Corvette, another one.
Oh, of course, Corvette. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
No, but there hasn't been a Corvette yet.
Yeah.
But there has been a Callaway Corvette. But there will be a Corvette next year.
Which I'm really looking forward to seeing, actually.
Unfortunately, it won't be little or red.
A bit loud and yellow. A lot of tyre smoke there then on track. So that was through the Abbey and Village, Abbey and Farm, part of the track. But drivers still keep it going here. Victorino still ahead of Sebastian. And Sebastian's just again, one of those drivers who's happy to sit behind right now. And it was Ethan Critchley in his McLaren catching the grass. Gives a flash of the headlights as well. Keeps his place, but I think there will be maybe a use for the Century Sim Racing branded toilet paper.
He's always got it to hand.
Yeah.
always got it to hand. So James Boumé leads Jack Sedgwick has run down Boumé at the front of the field. It's sort of hovering around half a second at the moment. There is the leader, the silver Porsche of James Boumé, and the black Ferrari of Jack Sedgwick. So Sedgwick in a really good spot here again, where he can kind of fuel save away. Alex Davison has not run them down, interestingly. So even with those new tyres, we'd have lost a little bit of time in the first couple of laps, but it's now just hovered around 5 seconds, which is what it was when they exited the pits. So Alex Davison, he's basically made that investment for later in the race, where he'll have a little bit more tyre life in, as Matteo Victorino into the pits from 8th place, and he cannot get home from here. Why is he coming in now?
Yeah, that's an interesting... And he's pulling straight in. I think he's going to be retiring here, you know. He is.
Oh.
Taking the tour back to the pits. I don't see any meatball flag or anything, so maybe he's just had maybe a technical problem with his rig, or it could be something that's happened that he's having to leave suddenly and attend to.
Well, that's a pity. Again, Matteo Victorino's run of misfortune, below expectation results continue. He was leading that opening race. We thought, here we go, is this the new star? Is this the new Leandro Anderuti in Matteo Victorino? And it all is unfolded late in that opening race, and there's been a few blips of success since, but in general, it's way below what he would expect. It's a shame.
It is a shame. He has left the server, so that's the end of Matthew's race here. So that's going to be 5 retirements from this race. Josh Boot, who had his spin and into the tyre barriers at Copse, decided to not continue in his. Matthias Lukchak, who we saw having his 2 incidents at Stur, deciding to take the tour to the pits and finish there. Chris Stevenson and Matt Loveridge both been on pit road and retired from their cars respectively. And now the latest one, Matthew Victorino on pit road and is out of the race. So we have got 35 cars remaining in this race. And it's a pleasure to have you all here on RaceSpotTV watching this round number 7 of the World GT Championship with Simitech sponsorship along with 3M as well. Great to have you all along here to enjoy this race. And we're just in that middle point of the race where we're waiting for the second pit stops to take place in this one. Of course, 2 mandated pit stops in these endurance rounds of the World GT Championship. Next week, when we head on over to the Circuit de la Sarre, you're going to have 1 mandated pit stop per race. And the way that the admins do that, if you are wondering, is that they limit the amount of fuel that the cars can hold. We'll get that tomorrow as well in the World Sports Car Championship, so you'll see that when you join us for RaceSpotTV for that. But yeah, it's a really good, stable running of the championship that they've got now. They've been in this format for a few seasons here, Peter, and they've just hit that sweet spot, I think, of having the 4 long races, the 4 medium sort of length races, and then the 4 rounds of sprint races.
I think it works perfectly, and we get the most complete champion in the end, in the World GT Championship, and indeed in any of the suite of World Sim Racing championships. I think it's superb the way that they're running. Really looking forward to the World Sports Car Series coming on to RaceSpotTV tomorrow night. LMP3s and GT4s, good mix. I think they'll race really well together.
We'll have to see after the media round.
Will that age that
we had the media race. We had the media race last week, and 1 or 2 of us had a little miscommunication, shall we say, out there. But Ethan Critchley introduced himself to me in his LMP3 car, so yeah, that's going to be intriguing for those drivers who race in this series, in the World GT Championship. How they get on, then going back-to-back days. You're not doing it every week, because the World Sports Car Championship is once every few weeks. But going back-to-back, you're limiting the amount of practice time that you're getting in those cars. It'll be intriguing to see how those drivers get on in that series starting tomorrow.
Will be very very interesting. It's quite a lot, very interesting to dip back and forth between the different machines. And Ethan Critchley's certainly made the most of this McLaren. Now, forgive me, but is there an opportunity mid-season to change car, Paul? Is that rule still in place?
Well, he can change the car, but you'd lose 200 points
penalty.
in the. No, you can't do it without a penalty. No.
Okay. I wonder how long they'll stick it out with the McLaren.
I think they're going to the end.
Yeah. Okay.
I think they've made the bed at the start of the season, and they're going to lay in it for the rest of the championship, I do feel.
Well, it's interesting. I wonder if they will. I wonder if they will regret it, possibly. Because there has been great one-lap pace, good flashes of speed, but it doesn't seem to be competitive amongst, say, the Porsche or the Ferrari or the BMW.
My question is, when you get to next round, for example, Circuit de la Sarre, how will that perform? Because you think the Mulsanne straight, 3 long sections of straight between the 2 chicanes down the Mulsanne, Then you've got the run from Mulsanne Corner down to Indianapolis, which is an extremely high-speed section of the track. And then out of Arnage towards Porta Curbs. Again, long, straight, high-speed section of track. How will that McLaren fare against some of these other cars here on the grid? Because we've seen how things like the BMW and the Mercedes have that bit of grunt down the straights, don't they?
They do, and I think it's really gonna play into the favour of the Pure Sims BMWs. I really do. I think that's what the circuit is tailor made for them, and I think the Mercedes will do well. Also, Porsche actually appears to have pretty good top end as well. It drafts quite well too.
Do you know what? Just looking at the calendar, actually, Daytona is our next endurance round. Well, I mean, that's got an extremely long couple of high-speed sections. Fuji Speedway, that run down towards turn number 1, down the start and finish straight, it just goes on forever, does that. And it is quite a high-speed track, is that, on the quiet. And Monza as well, again, another track with real high-speed circuit. There are a few rounds here where if you're in a car that's got really good top speed and you can trim it out on top of that, you're golden for those rounds.
You are golden. That's the right description. That is the right description. So we'll see. It is a balance, you know. At Sebring, it looked like, you know, Porsche was potentially the car to have, but it does come back and forth depending on the track that we go to. So it's not just one size fits all. Every racetrack has its own unique characters. Adam Watson in a good spot, leading Pro-Am at the moment by 8 seconds. Been a really strong drive from Adam, and taking full advantage of Grabowski's troubles.
Yeah, and you've got to take advantage of that as well whenever you get that opportunity. But Grabowski, considering that he's had a spin and started at the back of the grid, he is now up to 17th in this race as Dennis. He's having a sterling drive out there, and he's doing well into the privateer on his own. Got a bit of clean air at the moment, and then a gaggle of cars in front of him. He could still make up some more places before we get to the pit stops. But you're absolutely right, Peter, with Adam. He's been going about business and he's been sensible about it. He didn't fight Ross McFarlane when he was coming through on him. I think he's doing a really good job out there, is Adam, and a very professional job.
Very professional job indeed. Oh no! Oh, incident there of the number 421 Porsche. Oh yes. Richard Simner. Ah, what a shame.
So that was at the loop, wasn't it? Just coming out of Aintree where he was slow. So something's happened to Richard there with that. He's got back up to speed now. Doesn't look to be too much damage to the car either. Here's what happened. Into the loop and goes and spins it. And again, it's one of those situations where front of the car's loaded up and he's just made front to rear contact with the car in front. And as you said earlier with the Ross McFarlane incident, Peter, might have just had to really jam on the brakes very hard to try and avoid contact, and that's really sort of brought the rear end round.
Even with the anti-lock braking systems that these GT3 cars have, there is a limit. And yeah, if you have that really intense brake pressure when you're starting to turn in, it really can just turn the rear of the car around. So Bumi has opened up the gap. He's pulled away from Jack Sedgwick. He's up to 1.8 seconds at the front of the field. It was around half a second handful of laps ago, but Sedgwick's been able to stretch the gap, whereas Davidson's gap to our leader James Bumi has stayed pretty much exactly where it is, circling around 5 seconds. McFarlane, on the other hand, he's now only 8 seconds off the lead, so net he is actually gaining time back on the race lead. So he'll be really angry with himself about the mistake earlier on, because he's certainly made going for a win a lot more difficult. I don't think it's impossible with 40 minutes left on the clock, but that spin really was costly.
It was a big mistake to make. Looking at how things stand, I think we're going to see people like Ross McFarlane. I mean, Michael Gray's just come out of pit road. We've got the 96, Paddy Faulkner's currently stopped out on track but now got back running. So yeah, Michael Gray has made his second pit stop now just a lap ago. 27.5 seconds. So he was one of those that took that shorter pit stop to start with. And now taking that longer pit stop. Here, Sedgwick's onto pit road. So, Jack Sedgwick onto pit road from second place in the race. It does count him, actually, as having a lap led, but that's just because you cut across the inside of that last corner. Ross McFarlane on pit road as well.
Now, the question is, does Jack Sedgwick take tyres here? He did not at the first stop. He does
yes.
now. Okay, so he's going the other way around. He's going for the fresh boots for the sprint to the flag. Ross McFarlane, likewise, he's not getting caught out with the same deal as Sebring. So, James Boumé also, remember, whoa, as Paddy Faulkner, the rear of the Porsche, comes round and unfortunately finds one of the few places at Silverstone where there's a barrier quite close to the side of the circuit. What a shame for Paddy Faulkner. But, so yeah, Boumé, he did not change tyres at the first stop. Neither did Sedgwick, neither did McFarlane. Whereas Davidson, remember, he's got more fuel on board and he changed tyres at that first stop.
Yeah, so I think if I'm James Boumé right now, I take tyres. I think you've got to really to be able to counter the effect of Alex Davidson having that fresher rubber at the first stop. I think he has to sort of... if he's got a spotter as James, his spotter should be saying, look, they've taken tyres, we take tyres.
Yeah, you almost want to cover it off when you've got that advantage. You can afford to do that. And the thing is, taking the tyres isn't necessarily going to cost any more time because you've got to put the fuel in anyway. But if he's going to put the tyres on, he's got to come in now. There's no point going to it right to the end of the stint and then not get the best out of them. If you're going to put them on as early as you can. And that's exactly what Sedgwick's done. He's waited for the very first opportunity to pit where he could get home to the end of the race, and he pitted on that lap. So Boumé now, it's got a lot of decisions to make, so I'm sure it's pretty busy in the Altitude Esports team room at the moment.
Well, Matt Fletcher, it will be busy there because Matt Fletcher's just come onto pit road for his pit stop. I will tell you, James Boumé has actually stayed out for the time being. And you know what? He's got a lot of clear track in front of him as well. So he's not got to worry about any traffic really here to slow him up. So it might be worth him just staying out those few laps if it means that it gets him a gap to slot into out there on track, whereas Jack Sedgwick, we saw, was behind a queue of traffic. So maybe they're looking at the track map and thinking, we're going to come out in the middle of a pack here, keep out there, try and get the gap over them and then come in.
We'll see. What all will be revealed shortly. So in the AM battle, Sophia Redpath up to 11th overall. She's due a pit stop, although quite a few people further up are as well. So yeah, very and people behind her obviously needing pit stops too. So Sophia Redpath in a strong position right now to extend her championship lead and driving beautifully in that BMW.
I can tell you there's going to be a few drivers who are taking a bit of a sharp intake of breath because they are very close to the incident limit. It's very easy to pick up incident points around this track. We don't really like to talk about them, but track limits, it's easy to run across the inside of the curbs. Like this curb here, right at the end of Beckett's, it's very easy to actually cut a little bit too much, get yourself an off-track penalty and a slow-down penalty, in fact, at that part. Exit of Stowe, you can run that a little bit too wide, get an off-track penalty. Club Corner's the same. Abbey and Farm Curve. The run through Cops Corner as well. There's a lot of places where you can pick up those instant points very quickly in a short period of time.
Who's that? Oh, one of the altitude Porsches.
Watson?
Oh no! Oh, Adam Watson just got it up in the sausage curb. Oh, and that's always going to just ping you off. Oh, poor old Adam Watson. He doesn't lose too much time, maybe 3 or 4 seconds or so. But frustrating there for Adam Watson in the lead of Pro-Am.
His last lap was a 2:07, so it lost him about 7 seconds. Yeah, that's actually quite a big loss, is that, for him in his race. It didn't look
that much, did it?
No, it didn't at all. And of course, because he's then getting up to speed, his next lap is going to be affected to a degree as well, because he's starting the next lap straight away at a slower rate.
Very good point. He was almost at the start-finish line at that point. So yes, the next lap will be a time loss as well for Adam Watson. And now Jesse Stevens right behind. That's not a concern for class position because Jesse Stevens is in Pro. But Jonathan Walker, he's got his own bridge here at the virtual Silverstone, and he's thinking, right, this is my place. Pardon?
Is it about a second and a half between Johnny Walker and Adam Watson there?
It's visible. Yeah. There's just at the back of shot there. The beautiful blue and yellow 3M UK Porsche of Johnny Walker. And pit stop wise, where are they? So they're both due a stop, and they were only 0.4 of a second difference at the pump. So they're on identical strategy.
Wow, this is that one mistake has blown the AM race lead wide open here. There's Sophia Ridpath, by the way, currently in 11th place, owing as a pit stop along with the rest of them. Andy Archer decides to head onto pit road and get the next stop done for him. But yeah, Sophia, I'm always reluctant to say anything about Sophia, Peter, because we always seem to have the strongest strain of commentators' curse happen whenever we start talking about Sophia.
Well, Sophia's definitely had the strongest strain of really bad luck. Throughout last season, had class-leading pace all season, but had class-leading misfortune as well. This season, the pace has been, certainly as good, if not better. And the luck has very much gone much more her way. Last time out Road America was a little bit more of a bruising encounter, but in general, she's definitely been the benchmark in the AM class, as Jack Osborne making a move there again. But no concern, really, that's not for class position. It will potentially reduce the number of points Sophia would score because you score based on your overall position, but for the win in AM class, that's all right.
You got to pick and choose your battles, haven't you?
You do,
especially when you're in the Pro-Am and AM, and you're mixing it in the higher end of the point scale. It's interesting to see Jack Sedgwick is still behind these drivers, by the way, after his pit stop, and maybe that pulls into my thoughts about what James Bume is doing right now, having that clearer track, just putting the lap after lap after lap in, and
he's not towing anyone around either. I think he probably, after an hour of towing his rivals around, he probably thought, well, enough. But so my thought now is, Paul, is that Bume appears to be going as deep into the stint as possible, which makes me wonder, is he going to try and do this race on the same set of tyres? Because he might well put new tyres on, but he will obviously need a lap or two to get them up to pressure and temperature, and you lose time when you're doing that. You can play about with the starting pressures, though, can't you? You can maybe run them a bit lower if you know you've only got a short sprint to the end of the race.
Axel Slieptrovich, Adam Watson, Jack Osborne, Daniel Sedgley, Arthus Turtle, Adam Hedgecock, they're all onto pit road right now for their final pit stops of this race, and pretty much everybody, in fact it is everybody, taking tyres at this pit stop. So they're deciding that they're going to get fresh rubber, fresh boots, and get themselves the best opportunity of getting a good result for them out there. 29 minutes remain here in round number 7 of season 14 of the World GT Championship. Paul Smith and Peter Mackay here in the commentary box. And Jack Sedgwick now, it's a little bit clearer in front of him now that a few of those drivers that were in front of him have been on pit road. So he can really just focus up and get the hammer down, because his lap times, last lap was a 2 minutes 0.2 compared to James Bumay's 59.9. Bumay's in.
So 28 minutes to go then for James Boumé into the pits. Is he followed in by Alex Davidson? Alex Davidson, we believe, has more fuel on board because he was at the stop for longer. So looks Davidson will, or likely to go through.
He's staying out, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the pit stop. Does he take tyres? Yes. Yes, he is taking tyres. He goes up onto the jack, so James Bumay, I think that's a sensible decision. We said it, didn't we, that he had to match what Jack Sedgwick and company were doing with their pit stops, and he's doing exactly that right now.
Well. So this is where we see who has got the conundrum right, who has cracked the code here in the World GT Championship. We've seen so many times strategical masterstrokes pulled off in these last pit stops and often fool everybody, including here in the commentary box and indeed other competitors out there on track. The question is, as well, is what can Ross McFarlane do in his recovery run as well? He's done his final stop, so he's fueled up to the end of the race. He's in 8th at the moment.
You also had in the pits on that lap Ethan Critchley, Morgan Butler, Jonathan Walker, Sophia Ridpath is on for her second pit stop. So we've only got a few left to always a pit stop. Alex Davidson, Lev Sebastian, Marcin Rebicek, Jesse Stevens, as well as Richard Simner, Paul Crawford. They're the ones, and Paul Clist as well. They're the ones who all owe us a pit stop yet here in this one, as Jesse Payne Wilkins is now onto pit road as well. So we're very much in the depths now. We're in the bottom of the 8th, as it's saying in America for pit stops. And, well, onto pit road straight away, Alex Davidson. So I would have expected him to go a few laps longer there, Peter, I'll be honest.
Possibly, but you then wouldn't need as much to put as much.
Well, he's in the pit box right now, getting his fuel and tyres. He's up on the jack, so he's getting at least 2 tyres, is Alex. Wait patiently, he's leaving pit road right now. Here comes James Bume into Abbey Corner, and he's going to take the position back, but only just for Alex Davidson, because there is Davidson out of pit road, and the two of them, well, you don't need me to tell you how close the gap is. You can see it on screen. The two of them absolutely neck and neck now towards the end of this thrilling race. 25 minutes to go here in this race, and look at that straight away, Peter. James Bume feeling the need to try and break the draft.
And forgive me, Paul, it slipped my mind. Has Bume got new tyres on or not?
Yes.
He does. Okay, so this is kind of as you were then. The difference is that Bume has had a lap or two to get his up to temperature and pressure. So this is now push for James Bume, the championship leader in the altitude Porsche, because while Alex Davidson is trying to get that temperature and pressure into his tyres, this is a great opportunity. But the gap has come down quite a bit, and it's now sitting. What are we sitting at? Now sitting, there's a second or so. So that gap is the in and out process of the pits. Alex Davidson's played that very, very well and gained a bit of time.
I could tell you that Morgan Butler has been the first visitor down pit road for a drive-through penalty. He has hit that instant point limit as Morgan, and he actually owes us a pit stop then, because that was his second time on pit road for Morgan. So he does actually owe us a final pit stop. So, drive-through penalty. He'll be kicking himself with that one.
Yeah, you bet he will. You bet he will. But it was always a danger here at Silverstone. The drivers know it. that it's very, very easy to accumulate incident points. They've done, what are we on, lap 40, so you know that's you know, if you have one per lap, which trust me is really easy to do, you would have a drive-through penalty half an hour ago. So it's yeah, and if someone hits you from behind firmly enough, can be no fault of your own, you can be given 4 incident points.
Yeah, absolutely, and it all counts, it all adds up. It's not like it says, well, it'll only give you penalties if you're going off track for a drive-through. It won't count. No, every incident point counts. So if you get 2 heavy enough bumps, that's 8 of your 24 gone straight away. That's a significant proportion, and you can easily get 12 incident points on lap 1 of a race like this, where you're all in that pack.
Yeah, it's that lap 1 is really the big danger, and you don't have to do much for it to happen, and then you've really got to manage it for the rest of the race. Drivers do use, you know, at the top level of racing, you know, the drivers, if they know how much they can get away with track limits wise, they will use the warnings that they get tactically. Same here in iRacing, you kind of want to use right up to the limit of the incident points that you're allowed, but use them tactically. Use them when you need to, whether if it's to defend or to try and pull away from another driver or to catch another driver. But everybody gets the same amount, and you've got to manage it.
Daniel Sedgwick, we're currently looking at in 16th place, just off of the Pro-Am podium right now for Olympus Esports, following teammate Sophia Ridpath, who's in 15th place, as Liv Sebastian now comes onto pit road. So this is going to be one of your final drivers to head onto pit road, along with Jesse Stevens as well. As I say, I do believe Morgan Butler is going to head onto pit road at some point as well for his final pit stop. For Sophia Ridpath, though, just in front of Daniel Sedgley, the teammates for that Olympus Esports team, and well, they are currently going into this round in the championship. They're not doing too bad as a team as well, it must be said. I mean, Daniel Sedgley was 3rd place in Pro-Am coming into this round. Sophia leading AM, and the team's leading AM Teams Championship by 268 points, so in a very healthy position right now.
Looking very good, yeah. And the AM podium at the moment, William Guthrie sitting 2nd in class and 21st overall, and then Lord Hedge, Adam Hedgecock for Altitude Esports, sitting in 3rd in AM, but he's got Carol Pekalka but 4 seconds behind him, so not quite done yet, but Adam Hedgecock in a good spot for an AM podium as things stand. In Pro-Am though, Watson versus Jonathan Walker, very, very tight indeed.
It is very tight. It's around, it's just under a second, isn't it, between Watson and Walker. And Jack Osborne as well, in his McLaren, in his Fat Atom McLaren, is not that far back from them either, it must be said. So some battles. It's not just that race at the front, which is only a few tenths of a second between Bume and Davidson. It's not just that race at the front that is close, it's the races as well for the top positions in Pro-Am and AM. Davidson's looking a bit feisty here, Peter. I think he's wanting to get by, you know.
Looking very feisty is Alex Davidson. So Bume wasn't able to make the new tyres work as well as Alex Davidson, so this is game on now with 19 minutes to go. This is just now a sprint to the flag. There's no more tactics involved here with fuel, tyres, whatever. This is just a straight fight. 2 of the top drivers in the championship. Your championship leader James Bume hunted down by many time front runner. Oh, Davidson trying to nick it up the inside there in the arena section, but no, at the loop, sorry, can't quite do it. So one thing for sure is though, Paul, Jack Sedgwick, his strategical call to come in at the very opening of the second pit window has really not worked for him.
No, I mean, he came into pit road, about 9 laps or so back, whereas these two are 3 and 4 laps respectively on their stints. So, yeah, that little bit longer that Sedgwick has been on this fuel entire run. It was a little bit longer on the pit box as well at the pump, so obviously needed that little bit more fuel in his Ferrari 488. But it is, I mean, you look at it, the marks, it's Porsche, BMW, Ferrari, 1, 2, 3. Well, there's no problem with balanced performance there. There's even a McLaren in 7th place. So just goes to show that the balanced performance is pretty much spot on. At a track where it can favour some more than others in terms of cars.
Can do, and I can't wait till we go to Le Mans next week for a feature race too, as Davidson really put in the heat now on James Boumé as he pops to the outside as they come into Stowe. Boumé's going to try and hold the inside line, run it out to the paint and cover off Davidson. Oh, that might be an incident point there on the track limits, but here comes Davidson up the inside. Now is James Boumé. He's going to try and hold the inside line and cover it off, just lunging forward there on, just trying to be as late on the brakes as possible as they come right around the final corner, side by side, and Davidson really got a head of steam on here, Paul.
Yeah, you could carry the speed out of club, but he's not on the outside into Abbey. This is fantastic between your two leaders here. They've got 17 and a half minutes to go in this one, and they're still side by side into Village Corner. Boumé's now on the outside for the loop. Davidson's got the inside line. He's got the advantage. Oh, he pushes Boumé just a little bit wide, and Boumé relents, but it's not over yet. Down the Wellington Straight. But look at the grunt of that BMW. This Porsche's not catching up at the moment. Onto the brakes, and Davidson and that Pure Sims Esports BMW heads to the front of your field.
This is great to see from Alex Davidson. Just so strong a driver, and maybe you could argue hasn't had the results in the championship that he perhaps deserves. He's just so quick, but that was brilliant stuff. Appeared to just have so much more pace there than Boumé. Boumé tried to hold him off valiantly, but yeah, the BMW got good straight line speed, but the Porsche very good on the brakes too. So fantastic racing between Davidson and Boumé, and this is just what Alex Davidson needs to get his championship charge on the right path, and indeed for Pure Sims in the team championship.
Alex Davidson yet to win a race this season. He wants to get a race win under his belt. I mean, he was a championship contender, remember, last season in season 13. Okay, it didn't pan out for him in the end, but this is the Alex Davidson that we know from last season. It's not all worked out for him so far this season, but this is his opportunity right now.
Yeah, and this is the third different car in as many seasons for Alex Davidson. It was Mercedes 2 seasons ago, Ferrari last season, now the BMW. So it takes a little bit of time to gel the different car as well, and it's really coming good here in this endurance race. But Boumé's not giving it up, and it seems like in the draft Boumé can stay with that BMW. He's just got to try and get close enough, because the braking performance of that Porsche definitely the best in class, and then has to try and just hang on by the fingernails as they're charging down the straight.
This is really intriguing stuff. The last 15 minutes of this race, it's going to be all on the line here. And again, Davidson feeling the need to try and break the slipstream here down the straight. And again, I just think that BMW out of the corners has just got that little bit of grunt. We know the Porsche's good mid-corner. That BMW, it just seems to have that edge with that turbocharged engine.
Yeah, when it's the twin turbocharger with a small one and a big one, and that twin. Sorry, excuse me, it's a single one, but it's a twin scroll. So yeah, it's got great punch out the corner. So very impressive piece of kit. And yeah, in the Porsche, it's just not with that normally aspirated engine. It doesn't have the power down low. It has traction, but it doesn't have the power. So yeah, it's really intriguing to watch the two battle away. They've got to be Davidson and Boumé last lap by. They dropped 1.7 seconds to Jack Cedric when they were battling away. So Cedric now, the gap now down to 5 seconds. It has steadied a bit on this lap. So if that battling continues, then Cedric might well get closer here. We've got around between 7 and 8 laps to go. So if they kept battling that way, Cedric could catch them. But I think Davidson and Boumé now into a little bit more of a neater pattern for this lap.
I think Bume might be seeing that would be a potential threat behind to lose even more places if he carries on fighting. But I don't see him just backing off and doing that. I just think that if he feels that he's quicker, he will make the move and make the lunge. So definitely don't write out James out of this race yet. With that 13.5 minutes remaining, the front three have just absolutely waltzed away from the rest of the field here. It is really impressive, the pace that the front runners have had. Track temperature, by the way, keep you up to date with that as we're heading to the final 15 minutes. 32.8 degrees, so just short of 33 degrees Celsius. It's about 6-7 degrees hotter than when we started this race. So they won't be feeling as bad as they did at Sebring, because that was ridiculously hot, whereas here it is a bit more manageable for the drivers out there.
Definitely much more. I mean, we were approaching 50 degrees Celsius at Sebring. It was incredible, and it did have a big effect on the outcome of the race. Ross McFarlane's tyre strategy just didn't quite work out, and I think a lot of that was track temperature affected. So at the front of the Pro-Am field, Adam Watson's hanging on for now, but Johnny Walker is chasing him all the way in 11th overall. And well, we know how fierce Adam Watson can be in hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah, we do. I mean, he's 1.3 seconds ahead at the moment is Adam. So he does have that little bit of an advantage, but in fact he was faster last lap by about 3.5 tenths of a second. So Adam did gain a little bit of advantage over Johnny Walker. But we see here Sophia Ridpath, number 33, 14th overall with teammate in tow, Jack Osborne in front. Does she help her teammate out? Because Jack Osborne's third place in Pro-Am. Does she stick her nose in there to try and help Daniel Sedgley out? As there's a slow running number 43. That's Matt Scherf, who's well and truly getting out the way of the lap traffic. What did I say Sophia might do? Might get involved, throw her nose in there?
She's got to look after number one, though. She's got an AM championship to steal up this year, and is in the best possible position she could be to do that. You don't want to get involved in a tangle with a Pro-Am car here. You know, Sedgley, for me, it's if you're going to help Sedgley, let Sedgley pass and let him have a go. But I'm not entirely convinced that Sedgley's got the pace at this stage. It seems like Sophia has got that slight edge on pace, but we'll see. Going to be interesting 10 minutes or so as they come into the loop. And what do I know? Sophia's going to have a... Oh, you got to be careful. That could have been panel to panel. That could have turned around. Jack Osborne, Sophia Ridpath's got to be so careful here.
Yeah, and you also don't want to pick up any penalty points.
No, you really don't. That's stupid. If it's getting a penalty for having contact with someone who's not in your class.
Yeah, it's playing those percentages, and I think that's where the real intrigue for some people in a championship like this can really come out. Because yes, it's about strategy play in terms of how you go on with your pit stop strategy and things like that, but it's also the strategy of how you race out there. Sophia, I think Sophia's taking your advice right now, because here comes Daniel Sedgley, through he goes, so that's very sensible.
Yeah, that was the only play there. So now it's down to Daniel Sedgley to, if he feels he's got the pace, now is the time to show it. And it's the difference of a class podium or not, and there's nothing worse than being one spot off a podium. So Sedgley will be trying to push everything into this, and well, he's going to have Sophia Ridpath on his bootleg all the way home, I think, watching every single step. And Sedgley now right in the draft of the Fat Atom McLaren of Jack Osborne. Couldn't quite get a run set up down the hangar straight, but putting a lot of pressure on, and it has to be said, Jack Osborne managing this beautifully and really not being perturbed by two massive big BMWs queued up behind him.
Did you actually stand next to this BMW when you attended?
Yeah.
It is actually quite a sizable. I was surprised at how big it is actually for a race. You know, you think of race cars as being quite, you know, sort of small, nimble things. This is a big lumbering brute, but I tell you what, it doesn't half shift around the track.
Oh yes, yeah, it does. But you think about it, actually, it's relatively svelte compared to the car it replaced, the M6
Yes.
GT3, which is a proper big. I mean, the M4 is a two-door, albeit four-seat, but a two-door coupe in its road-going form. The M6 was the big proper big executive barge, albeit in a slightly coupe shape, but a larger class of car. So yes, it is, but it just looked menacing with an enormous rear wing and the divisive front end.
The face that only a mother could love, front end of the car.
Well, unless you're a fan of Bugs Bunny.
The big snorting nostrils on that car, yeah, certainly does show. Now, Jonathan Walker's lost a bit of time out there on this lap. Did a 2 minutes 2.067 compared to Adam Watson's 2 minutes 0.752. So Johnny Walker's lost the best part of a second and a half there to Adam Watson. So something's gone on. As meanwhile, speaking of going on, this is a battle for the final step of your Pro-Am podium with 7.5 minutes remaining here. Round the outside of Stir. That'll give the inside into Club. And it's Daniel Sedgwick and Sophia Ridpath is trying to follow the teammate through there. And do you know what? She's giving it a go on Jack Osborne in that McLaren. Oh, they're going to be side by side through the exit of Club Corner, using the track and then some for Ridpath. Down the start finish straight to that McLaren's coming back at it to the inside of Abbey Corner. Ridpath still got a nose inside now, just clear. And Dennis Grabowski, well, he's getting involved in all this. Ridpath round the outside of Osborne. That's going to give him the inside of the loop. Oh, careful there. But now Grabowski's getting involved. If I'm Sophia, I'm thinking, do you know what, Dennis? You have got a lot of pace. Up 22 places for Grabowski.
Well, Sedgley's gone. He's checked out as well. So Sophia has definitely played her. Yeah, that was pretty heavy-handed there from Dennis Grabowski. Contact there at Brooklands, shoving Sophia Ridpath aside. So Sophia's definitely played her team role in spades there to help Daniel Sedgley to get up on the podium and actually compromised her own race quite a bit there. She still is in the lead of Am, but has lost a few valuable points. But you know, motor racing is a team sport in many ways, and yeah, Sophia's drinks are definitely not on her in the clubhouse tonight.
Sophia Ridpath does have 3 AM wins to her name. The first 3 races of the season, in fact, Sophia has won all 3 AM races in those. So she has got a bit of form to her, although William Guthrie has won 2 of the last 3 races in the first portion of this season. 5 minutes remaining. The lead battle is actually spread out. James Bumay's not been able to keep up with Alex Davidson, so Davidson's pulled away a little bit at the front, and that's just allowed him to get that little bit of breathing space at the front with 5 to go here. Now, Jack Osborne, Dennis Grabowski, McLaren versus Porsche. I hate to say it, but I do sense have a feeling of inevitability about this.
Well, let's see. Jack Osborne's got to try and hang on as well. Grabowski goes wide and just loses it a little bit on the brakes there. So Osborne holding on and using his flamethrowers out the back of the McLaren as well for a protective device as well. That's one thing that the McLaren has that no others do is the flamethrower exhaust. Like something out of Robot Wars.
Or Mad Max. Yeah, one of the two. I don't think the McLaren, that particular model of the McLaren would be robust enough to be either in Mad Max or in Robot Wars.
Yeah, Magic Craig Charles. And now it's the MP412C from Woking.
Well, I mean, they've got a ready supply of carbon fibre available at least, so that's true. They have got a drive-through penalty for Chris Gooch. He's the instant limit now, so he's the latest one to get himself a penalty. Jesse Stevens, Mark Fletcher, bottom of the top 10. Fletcher's lost a place from where he started in 8th place. Stevens is still where they started in 10th, so Jesse wanted to try and improve here and move forward in this one. Not coming so far, but that time is running out. We've got about 2 laps remaining here, coming up to 3 minutes remaining in this race.
Well, it's been a superb performance from Alex Davidson. He's managed the race beautifully, and just very patient behind James Boumé, bided his time, and holds a lead of just under a second at the moment. So it's not exactly safe yet, but is in a good spot. Mark Fletcher trying to hold off Jesse Stevens here for 9th. And Adam Watson, under pressure, he's really come in this last stint, Paul. He's really come to the fore and opened up a gap of 5 seconds. Oof, to Johnny Walker, as Jesse Stevens had a little look there up the inside of Mark Fletcher, but couldn't get enough of a nose in.
Yeah, the door was cracked open and they almost kicked it in, but Stevens decided to back out of that one and not push that one too hard for this time. But the opportunities are running out here, and that means there's less and less time to make those moves. Now Sophia Ridpath, I've just noticed, has been dropping down the order a little bit, and do you know what? Sophia Ridpath has a meatball flag right at the end of the race. Now, if she can drive that car, she can get that car to the finish, because a meatball flag, you've got to serve that in 3 laps. There's only 2 laps remaining here, but she has got a mechanical meatball flag.
And how on earth has that happened?
I have no idea.
The car looks perfect.
Well, here we go. Here's what happens. So Dennis Grabowski's had contact with Osborne. There. Front right. So the front right of Ridpath's car, and I bet Sophia will be absolutely cursing right now. What's the gap between Sophia and the next AM driver of William Guthrie? Is this going to be reminiscent of Lewis Hamilton on the last lap of the Grand Prix here, where he had that puncture? Well, it's the same corner. It's front right. It's the same wheel.
Yeah, Sophia Ridpath will be ruining that. In that situation, not really a great deal she could do. I mean, Grabowski...
4.5 seconds is the gap.
Started from the back of the field because he'd had a penalty for driving conduct, and has been bouncing off everyone in this last stint.
We have got 15 seconds remaining. Going under the bridge down the Hanger Straight is your race leader, Alex Davidson. He's got to keep it on the grey stuff though, because James Bume is right there to pounce in case he makes even the smallest of mistakes here. Just a couple of corners to go though for Alex Davidson. It's confirmed it's the last lap. Barney the flagman is going to be ready with the checkered flag, and Alex Davidson for Pure Sims Esports is a race winner here in round number 7 of the World GT Championship. James Bume second, and it's going to be Jack Sedgwick who comes across in 3rd place. Your Pro-Am, Adam Watson, where is he in all of this? He's coming down the end of the Hanger Straight. He's got a good gap now over Jonathan Walker of 5.5 seconds. Again, this is just somebody who has to keep the car on that grey stuff. Adam Watson for Altitude Esports White. One more corner to go, and then that is going to be a Pro-Am win for Adam Watson here today. He'll be delighted with that. And And then our attention is drawn to Sophia Ridpath. Can she get that car to the end of the lap? William Guthrie's in the background of the shot, but I think he's just a little bit too far back to take advantage of that damage. So it's Sophia Ridpath for Olympus Esports who takes the AM win here in this race.
Wow. Well, that was certainly a nervy one there for Sophia Ridpath and Olympus Esports. She played the team role, and Daniel Sedgley got through to get a podium akin to Ronan Pearson and Tom Ingram at Knock Hill last weekend. Well, Sophia Ridpath getting the AM win after all, but whoa, that was pretty tight there at the end.
I think Sophia will be having a sigh of relief there on that one, because that was absolutely crazy. Last couple of cars are coming across the line, and then we've got your results here then. So 52 laps we had in this race, and it is Alex Davidson. The strategy worked out for him, for the Pure Sims Esports driver. He's the race winner, but only just by 0.8 of a second over the Altitude Esports driver of James Bume. In X Racing's Jack Sedgwick is in third place, about 6.5 seconds behind the leader in the end of the race. Leif Sebastian ends up finishing in fourth place after a gain of 5 places in that race over Axel Slepčević. Ross McFarlane, who was looking to be one of the contenders early on in this race in that first stint, a little bit of contact to spin, half spin, and that cost him a load of positions. Finishes 6th in the end. Ethan Critchley for Fat Atom Esports in 7th ahead of Marcin Rebicek. Jesse Stevens and Mark Fletcher, they did switch positions in the end, 9th and 10th for those. Adam Watson is the top Pro-Am driver for Altitude Esports White. He finishes 6 seconds ahead of Jonathan Walker in that 3M UK car. Daniel Sedgley does end up on the podium here for Olympus Esports in Pro-Am, so definitely a good result for him. Dennis Grabowski in 14th overall ahead of Arthur Turtle, Andy Archer and Tim Perry. Then the top of your AM, and a dramatic end to the race for Sophia Ridpath. A mechanical meatball flag, meaning the Olympus Esports driver had to limp around the final 2 laps of this race. Does so by 3 seconds over William Guthrie's full tilt V-Auto Sport car, and taking the AM win for Sophia. Jack Osborne is finishing in 20th place. 21st for Paul Webster ahead of Richard Simner. Morgan Butler, who was the first of our drivers who got a drive-through penalty, in 23rd. Adam Hedgecock for Altitude Esports Blue finishes on the AM podium here, 24th overall for him. Michael Gray ahead of Karol Pukalka. Then it's Lars Van Rijn, Paul Crawford, Andy Jones and Ben Gregory. Then Patrick Faulkner and Jesse Payne-Wilkins are the last 2 drivers on the lead lap. Drivers 1 lap down, just 3 of them. Chris Gooch, Paul Clist and Matt Sheriff, with then the drivers who did not finish: Matthew Victorino, Matthew Loveridge, Chris Stevenson, Matthias Lukczak and Josh Boot, rounding out the 40 cars in this race. Well, Peter, we'll have to say the tactics worked out perfectly for Alex Davidson there today.
Beautiful execution from Alex Davidson, and really had to be patient, and he did so, and just clearly been putting in the preparation to know what the right strategy was. Shame for James Bume. He did nothing wrong. He drove a perfect race as well. It's just that Alex Davidson was just that tiny bit better on the strategy. But for Bume, if those are, if that's what you would call an off day, that's how you win championships. So he'll come away with another strong bag of points. And you need to beat James Bume right now. You need to be mounting a consistent challenge every week, whereas Pure Sims, either Alex Davidson or Ross McFarlane's come to the fore, but not both at the same time. So that's where Bume is really in a strong spot.
Well, we do get to speak to one podium visitor. Peter Mackay, you take it away with Lord Hedge himself, Adam Hedgecock, after finishing 3rd place in AM.
Lord Hedge, welcome to the RaceSpotTV commentary box. Congratulations on a podium in Am. How was the race?
It was pretty lonely most of the time, to be fair, Peter. But no, it was a long, grueling one. This one felt long. Like most of the time, there's something to kind of make the time go past quicker. I don't know what it is, but yeah, Silverstone, it dragged, but in a good way. It was good racing when I was around people. But yeah, knackered now, my friend.
Now I notice you've got a McLaren wheel there on your sim rig. Does it spit flames like the car does in the sim?
Fortunately not. I'd have no beard if that was the case. I can actually, I will say, and this isn't a sponsored thing or anything, but it's a great wheel. It really, I love this thing. It's so good.
Speaking of sponsors, you're of course one of our series sponsors with your wonderful Simtography. What's the plan now? Do you go and get straight on with it after a race, or do you take a little bit of a pause? What's the plan? Because you've got lots of work to do.
I have, yeah, 3 series now as well with tomorrow's sports car starting up too. But no, tonight I unwind. I found very early on that being in the pack where I am, incidents happen, and sometimes you finish racing a little bit angry. So I do the sensible thing. I just switch off, turn everything off, grab myself a cold beer, and then hit the pictures first thing in the morning.
That sounds like a good plan. Hedge, that was a fantastic drive. Congratulations on the podium, and good luck next week at Le Mans.
Thank you, Peter.
There we go then. Getting to hear from one of our podium visitors here today. And you know, you got to say, 3rd place in Am, it was 24th overall in the end. Exactly where he started, by the way, Peter. So he didn't gain any places, but he didn't lose any more, crucially.
On the podium, that's the main thing. That's what it's all about. And keeping, and Adam made a very good point there, where if you're fighting for podiums in the AM class, you are in the epicenter of the storm. So you have to be aware of that, and he's absolutely right. It can be exhausting, and sometimes you can get caught up in others' accident, which can be frustrating. So staying exactly where you are, finishing where you started, provided you didn't mess up qualifying, of course, that's what he needs to do in his situation.
Well, the series does not stop, because next week we head to, well, the historic home of 24-hour racing. It is Circuit de la Sarthe, Le Mans, for 2 feature race rounds. You make sure you don't want to miss that one next week, because that should be an absolute cracker of an event. And don't forget, tomorrow as well on RaceSpotTV we have live coverage of the opening round of a brand new series from World Sim Racing. It's the World Sports Car Championship. You can check that out tomorrow on RaceSpotTV at 8 p.m. But from ourselves here in the commentary booth, Paul Smith, Pete Mackay with Hugo Luis behind the scenes in the broadcast production, it's goodbye for now.